Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you. Now here's your host, Sarah J Naylor.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me. Today I have a fabulous guest, Catherine Rannus, with me today. I'm going to hand over to her so she can fully introduce herself, and then we can sort of get cracking because this is going to be a really interesting interview. Over to you, Catherine.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Yes, I'm Catherine. I make music for all sorts of different things. So under the name Belightful Music, I make music with healing properties. We can attune your chakras, get them all into alignment with music. I also attune to the Fibonacci sequence. So for all you geeks out there familiar with it, it's just a number sequence, and when I tune A to 432 Hertz, as opposed to concert pitch, which is 440 Hertz, all the other frequencies fall into alignment with Fibonacci. And Fibonacci, we're surrounded by it, it's all over in nature, it's within the human body. We hear the music through the cochlea and all that's the Fibonacci spiral right there. And all sorts of other dimensions within the body. We just absorb, all it is sound waves, and we absorb those at a much more healthy level when the music's tuned to 432 Hertz.
It's just fascinating, it really is, because I'm not a musical. I love music, I really do love music, and I obviously understand about chakras. And for people that don't understand about chakras, because I'm sure there are quite a few people going, what's a chakra? Catherine will explain probably more eloquently than myself, because she's also a Reiki master and she's done a lot of energy work. But it's the key points throughout our body. But Catherine, over to you if you'd like to explain the chakra system more eloquently than myself.
Right, when I was training to be Reiki master, I stumbled upon all the research about each chakra. So with 7 main chakras, and it starts with the root chakra, which is the base of the spine. Now each chakra is based upon a bija mantra. It's got a frequency, it's got a tonality, it's got a colour, and it's got all sorts of different things like the food that you eat. You can even sort your chakras out just by eating different coloured foods and things like that. Yeah. So when I learnt all this, I think I was around 19, 20, and I was studying to be a musician. I'm always going to be a musician, but it actually took me till age 30 to put this together, which I guess is quite a long time. But I just had to integrate everything, I think, first of all, and make sense of it in my own mind. So my first idea was I need to make this album. It's going to be called Pure Chakra, and track 1 is going to have all the elements that sort the root chakra out. So it's based on the bija mantra. It's in the key of C major, and all the frequencies are there. I build up harmonies on the C major chord. So the signature sound of Belightful Music is this layered up vocal. I triple track and double that up as well. And the harmonies, the counterpoint, it's just layered up with just beautiful harmony, it's just nice music, despite there's all the frequency stuff in there as well for the root chakra, but it is just nice music to listen to. It's very much music, not just frequency. I'm a musician first. So track 1 they're all between 6 and 7 minutes long each track, and you can just have it playing in the background. Track 1 will bring that root chakra into alignment gently each time you listen to it. Then track 2 moves to the sacral, which is the tonality of D major. It's got a different bija mantra, so all the elements are in for track 2. Track 3, the solar plexus. Track 4, the heart, throat chakra, third eye, and crown. So there's 7 main tracks on the album, and then there's a grounding track to finish off with, just to rebalance and bring you back into the here and now.
Oh, it just sounds amazing. I am definitely going to have to get that and download it, or get on to... Is it on Spotify, or where is it?
That one's not on Spotify. It's only available from www.belightfulmusic.co.uk.
oh, I'm going to get it. It just sounds so lovely. Because I mean, when I do meditation and things like that, it's lovely to have that kind of music. But actually, if you've got that music that's healing you, because as you say, I mean, we're all made up of cells and atoms that are atoms that are vibrating at a certain frequency. So that word in itself, that vibration, is what resonates, what goes through us. And like you say, we've all got it: plant life, human life, animal life, and everything. There's a vibration going through all of us at any one time, and it's about having that positivity, that positive energy, and whether that's in sort of an upbeat sort of laugh and a good conversation, or whether it's through music, it resonates, doesn't it, through the body, and that's what makes us sort of lifts us or brings us down. And you can heal, like you were just saying as well, about food colours and things like that. You know, if you're eating all the right, they call it a rainbow, don't they, for, you know, rainbow of colours on your plate. But the music is so powerful. It's so powerful for all of us, isn't it? There's so much evoked through sounds, sound waves, energy, and the frequency of music. I mean, going back into, as you say, you referred to your studies. I mean, you were jazz music or jazz?
My degree is jazz, yeah. The things I'd done before that, I'm classically trained. My BTEC was in popular music, but yeah, the degree was in jazz, yeah.
What does it cover when you're studying jazz? I mean, I say I've had snapshots of jazz, and I like the bits of jazz that I've heard, but it's great. But what do you do when you're studying it?
Well, there's a lot of history, and there's a lot of harmony, because jazz music, the harmony behind jazz music is really complex. It's not like pop music where you might just get 3 or 4 chords in a whole song on a pop song. Jazz is very much, there's a lot of theory and harmony knowledge and the improvisation then to go over certain chords and the extensions of the chords. I found it really difficult, actually. I'm not a natural jazzer. I didn't really enjoy playing jazz until after I'd graduated.
Not so much pressure then.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad I did. I persevered through because I wanted to quit every day of that course.
What kept you going then? That's really interesting. Because obviously you just said, I wanted to quit every day. But what kept you going, and what was it that sort of, obviously, as you say, there was a sense of achievement in completing it, but you enjoyed it afterwards. But what kept you going? Well,
you see, I started on the classical, but then I decided I didn't want to be a concert pianist, and the college didn't want to lose funding for me as a student, so they wanted to put me onto a different course within the college because I was adamant I needed to leave that course. So they said, just try the jazz. And I'm like, I'm not really into jazz. I don't really get it. I can't improvise. I don't know what a Jeff Sharp demolished chord is.
Oh my gosh. A Jeff Sharp, it sounded like to me. I was going to say, who's he?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know what instrument Miles Davis played. There were a lot of gaps in my head. But I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And what I was learning was so far removed from anything else I'd learned. I knew what I was learning was really essential to be a musician that I wanted to be. And I thought, I'm going to stick this out and just work my socks off and get my head around it and just practice until I've got it.
So you really kind of set an intention to complete it then, to go with that challenge and just get it done so that you could be the musician you wanted to be.
I did, but I was in a really dark place at the time. I'd got a broken heart and moved away from home. There was a lot of things happening. I think I was probably depressed.
Oh no!
And the thing that turned it around for me was a little book called The Midas Method by Stuart Goldsmith, which my dad gave me. It was for business people, really, all about goal setting and really achieving big things that you set your mind to. And also, my dad had this tape series by Peter Thompson, tapes, this is how far back we're going, cassettes, and it was called Accomplishment. And because I was driving to Leeds every day, because I moved back home because I was in such a dark place, and driving to Leeds and back every day, I had these tapes on, which was Peter Thompson talking about how you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish, how to get that positive mindset. And that led me into the world of mind-body stuff, really, because it's all saying the same things. And I wouldn't be the person today had I not been through all of that back then.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is it, isn't it? It's the bumps in the road, the experiences that I have, and the choices that we make. And as you say, listening to that as you're on that commute, on that drive, and just feeding your brain and your subconscious with all that sort of positive mindset stuff and understanding what it is that you need to do to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish is just fantastic. So it's kind of, it's almost, it was you're having an in-car coach, really, weren't you? That's what you'd got, and it's just so powerful. And if you embrace that and you're ready for, making something happen, when you actually listen to that and take on board what you need to take on board, as you say, you can achieve what you want to achieve, which is absolutely amazing. And you obviously you did get your degree, and you've got a lot of instruments that you play, haven't you? So which are, in fact, I was going to ask you what makes you a happy person, and obviously it's music, but what makes you a happy person? Is it the music, the instruments you play? Do you play a range of instruments?
Well, I play piano, flute and saxophone, and I also sing. I would say, I think when I'm improvising, that's when I'm at my happiest, because I don't even know why. I don't know. It's just that creativity that sort of, it's right side brain activity, isn't it? And it's just getting that when you're improvising, you can't really be thinking of anything else. Well, I can't.
Because that's interesting though, because you said on your degree, when it was coming to the jazz bit, you said, I can't do improvisation, and now you're saying this is the bit that you really enjoy.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, because I hated it at college. I hate anything that there's a solo coming up.
You see, no, you did that in tune. I did that I don't have a musical bone in my body. I was like, I think that's a bit more like Tarzan then. Oh dear, but yeah. So now you improvise. But I mean, I've listened to the music that you play. The bits that I've seen that come down from sort of YouTube, and the other bits that I've heard, and it's just beautiful. I mean, it's just such. The music that you play is gorgeous, and how you play it is just magical. Because you do weddings and things like that. That must be a really happy gig to do.
Yeah, once I've gotten down the aisle and the pressure's off, yeah.
Is it always a traditional "Here Comes the Bride" music or not?
No, very rarely. I play for a lot of civil ceremonies, so
okay.
You can walk down the aisle to anything, pop song, anything.
What's been your favourite song to play to people who are going down the aisle?
Probably like something you would never expect, like I did a rock song. I did a really nice version of quite a heavy rock song by Thunder called When Love Walked In.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I do like just a beautiful arrangement of it. And I went all the way to Wales to play at someone's wedding because they wanted it live, playing for them to walk down the aisle.
Oh,
my version of that song. So I love it when I love doing my own arrangement of an unexpected song that you wouldn't expect a piano solo or just, a female soft vocalist to cover.
Yeah, who are your favourite artists at the moment then?
At the moment, I really like Dua Lipa, I like Harry Styles.
Yes, yes.
It's a bit young for me, but I was just 2 years younger. I love current pop music, and because I play saxophone out, with DJs and things, that keeps me current.
Yes.
In fact, the latest thing that I just love doodling about with are like heavy dance music. Or like dance music from the 90s or something like that, like Castles in the Sky. Mm-hmm. I do a beautiful piano arrangement of it, which is totally unexpected, or, an Ultranate one.
And is it always music that makes you happy, or are there other things that sort of you find happiness in? What are your sort of go-to happy things?
Well, I do yoga. I do a lot of things because I know, but that's not like happy. That's just feel good.
Yes, well-being. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just love feeling good physically. I like to raise your vibration. There's a billion things you can do to raise your vibration and make sure you're feeling good, and then you'll be happy. Whatever it is that you're doing, then you'll be happy then.
If you are sort of feeling a bit sort of fed up, there's always music that you can go to and put on that lifts you. Do you have any specific tracks that you like that lift you?
I do, like for empowerment. These are what you should have in your toolbox as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, yes, I like this.
Yeah, so
top tips and toolbox. Come on.
Yeah. So my one is for like really, if I just need to get in be really focused on what I'm doing and feel really good. Wild Women Do, you know, from Pretty Woman. Wild women do, and they don't regret it. Love that. That's like me go out and get them.
Yes.
Ones that just send me off, like Kate Bush.
Oh, yes.
Some, just to, just feel a bit wild.
Love some Kate Bush. Absolutely love some Kate Bush. Did you like the, mind you, it's probably about 15 years ago now. I can't remember what album it was called. It's a double album.
I preferred the older stuff when I listened to that. I mean, I like the Running Up the Hill, and I love all Babushka. I love all that.
Yes, absolutely. Army Dreamers and Wuthering Heights, of course. Yeah. And now then I have to ask you, on a completely random note, do you like Noel Fielding's version of Wuthering Heights when he did it for Comic Relief all those years ago? And he did it obviously because he's very much a performance artist. It was hilarious, and if you've not seen it, do watch it. Noel Fielding doing Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights, hilarious. So I was going to ask you as well, because obviously you have got a positive mindset, and I know you referred to the challenges that you went through when you were studying, and clearly what Dad had given you to listen to in terms of it was Peter Thompson, you said, and there's also a book you mentioned as well, which was the Midas Method, but that was sort of kind of back then. How do you use your positive mindset these days to overcome any challenging situations? Is there anything that you do differently, or is it very much the same? Because that was back then, and obviously that's brought you into the person you are today. But, I mean, obviously, life still has a habit of throwing things at us, challenge-wise, along the way.
It does, and you use the word habit there, and I think now, everything that I learnt back then now is habitual to me. So when, I know myself now, so I know, I'm goal-orientated, so I can work towards the end point, and that will keep me on track doing what I need to do. So I mentioned that I've been accompanying for exams today. Now, the pieces I had to play for the children's exams today were very, very challenging, really.
Oh my gosh.
And the stress of having to get it right for the child, that's really, really challenging. And I just have to program myself to stay on track with the practice regime that I'd set myself. I'm time orientated more than goal orientated, actually. So I said to myself, if I practice 2 hours a day, that's the best that I can do. I can't give more than 2 hours to this a day.
Yes.
Quite frankly, I'm not getting paid enough. But
no, exactly. But you want to do the best job that you can do.
Yes.
So that's for you personally as well as, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm happy to put 2 hours a day into practicing the pieces that I had to play, all of the pieces for a few children. So I had to, within myself, go, right, I'm doing 2 hours a day and that's it. I need to do that. I'll get to the end point then. And just to keep focusing on how you feel when it finishes.
Yes.
And I think that's one, especially if you're in bad habits with eating or anything like that, just think, how will you feel after you've eaten that? Will you feel good? Or will you feel a bit stodged out and heavy? Because I like to feel light. I mean, I feel like a fairy most of my life. So, and I
wish I could say the same.
Oh, really? Oh. See, I love feeling light, and I do. And anything that's going to stop me from feeling light, I'm not drawn to anymore. I'm really not drawn to the fish and chips, you know?
Yeah, no, do you know what? That's really interesting, though, because what you're sort of talking about is that future pacing. You're sort of projecting yourself into the future to understand how you feel when you have completed a task or you've eaten something or what have you done. And it's such a powerful coaching technique to actually implement that. And I love the structure that you've put to that creating a goal, because you're creating there's time bound in there, because that is an important part in itself of goal setting. You know, it's like, well, this is what I want to achieve. When do I want to achieve it by? How am I going to go about it? What options I've got? What resources I've got? And that's just so classical is that you've shaped it in that way. And as much this is what I need to do, how much time I'm prepared to give to it, what options I've got. Well, I've only got so much time, but the motivation to do it, that will, that drive, is how good you'll feel after you've done it. And also, obviously, supporting the students getting their qualification. That's brilliant. I really like that. Thank you very much. And all of this wonderful stuff is, kind of answering one of the other questions I was going to ask you, which was, top tips for people who are listening to us talking right now. But you've come up with so many already, in terms of having music in your toolbox and having, that sort of outcome in mind and feeling light. I'm going to go with that one, I'm going to steal that one. I'm thinking, will I feel light when I've finished eating that?
Yeah.
The cheese on toast I had for lunch probably didn't make me feel that way, but it did fill a gap.
Yeah, well, when you come accustomed to feeling light, I mean, if you've never really felt light, then it's really tricky. And if you haven't, or if you're listening to this podcast sort of fresh, these are like new ideas that you've never thought of before, I think my best advice would be to think about your thinking, because that's your first little thing that you can't let go any lower than a certain point. And often we're worrying about things without even realising we've just sat there worrying about something. And all you're doing is throwing negativity at whatever it is that you're worrying about. And you're not even aware of it. So that consciousness, that awareness, that's the first thing.
We aren't our mind. We can step away from our mind and we can observe what we're thinking. It's a fascinating subject when you start to talk about it, when you're embracing it for the first time. But you aren't your thoughts, you aren't your behaviour. You can change at any given time. And the mind is just like a computer that you can change the program, but it's separating yourself out and recognising and listening and observing what your thoughts are, and then taking the time to sort of reframe them, to change them, to think differently. But like you were saying, you referenced earlier, is that what you do now has become habitual, and it takes practice. Like your journey to university, there was that practice, that continued practice, and you've trained your brain. That muscle memory in the brain has been sort of conditioned, and you start to think that way. And that's why these bad habits come into play, is because you just keep on practicing the bad habit, and it becomes so natural. But you can overcome that, can't you? You can rewrite that.
Yeah, you can totally rewire your brain in that way as well. And I think just to challenge yourself with certain things, instead of just coasting through your life, and then you do become thinking of just the same things over and over again, and not adding anything fresh into there. Whereas like just the pieces that I've just been practicing on piano, they've connected a whole new thing in my brain, because it's something new, it's something I've worked on, something that's connected everything else. So I think a challenge now and again is really good for our brains as well.
I sort of underwent lots of sort of additional training to do with social media and things like that. I won't go into all the details of it, but I sort of signed up, I sort of double booked myself, if you like, for 6 months, and that was very brain stretching. It was like learning something new in a foreign language, because people were talking about funnels and lead magnets and masterclasses and memberships. And you go, what? I don't understand all this words and terminology. And I've now taken a step back and gone, I think I could just give myself a bit of a break. It's getting that, but it's getting that balance, isn't it? It really is getting that balance. So what are you working on these days? What are you currently doing?
I've got a podcast theme that I'm writing the theme tune music for. So that's what I'm doing work-wise. I'm also working on a sleep rap.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm not doing the rap, don't worry. I'm not doing
Oh God, I was going to say, Catherine, come on.
No, I'm working with something else. So I'm doing the background music to it, and then the words to the rap encompasses a lot of different things about sleep, aimed at sort of 12 plus years old. So we need to try and make sleep cool for the kids. I've done a lot of sleep stuff for babies and toddlers and younger children, and sleep songs. They're available on Spotify and everywhere. But now the next stage category that we really need to target for their own mental health is the teenage years, where they're on computer games, they're on screens, they're not sleeping properly, they don't respect sleep, they don't see how important it is, they don't realise that when you're tired, they're probably being so tired over weeks and weeks and weeks of staring at a screen. You make bad decisions about what you eat because you can't be bothered to eat properly, and you do make a lot of bad decisions. You can't concentrate, you're not going to do well in the classroom, and it's so important to respect sleep. So this rap is sort of highlighting all those areas, making it cool. It's still got the healing frequencies in there of the background music underneath the rap. Yeah.
Excellent, we like that.
Yeah.
You're programming their subconscious without them realising. I know what you're up to, Catherine.
Yes.
But that's interesting that you should say that. I have to say, I've been a very lucky person all my life, because I've not been an anxious person. I sleep, my head hits the pillow, I'm out cold. Things all sorts can be going on, I don't hear a thing. And I've inherited that from my dad. But, it is so important, and I've not had a television in my room for years because it's just not healthy. And any tech in your room, I take my mobile phone into the bedroom, but literally it's switched off. I don't have it switched on, because any interference with your sleep patterns, the radio waves that go into your head that play around with, it's the REM sleep, well, all of your sleep pattern, to be perfectly honest, and even at these this is me doing visuals on a podcast again. I am showing for the benefit everybody my smartwatch, which I wear because I just like to sort of track things, particularly when I've been out running, but I know a lot of people wear them to sleep in, and I think, well, no, because that connectivity with the body, you're sending pulses through your body because it's picking things up, and you don't want to connect with anything at all while you sleep. And I think you can then get into a pattern of thinking, well, how have I slept? Oh, well, they're then getting anxious because the watch is telling you something. No, just go to sleep, and if you've got things that are on your mind, write them down and get them out of your head so you can actually have a peaceful night's sleep. Don't have any tech in your room. And sadly, my son did have tech in his room. I didn't want him to, but in sort of the size of the house that I'd got, it wasn't really sort of any option. But I've always encouraged him to sort of switch it off. And it's sad to hear what you've actually said, that they're not respecting sleep because they're so used to spending that time in the screen, but it's just so bad.
Yeah, massive problem at the moment with teenage children.
So what are your plans with it? How are you going to actually get that out to everybody? Because that's a really, really important thing to do with, for the generations to come.
Well, hopefully we're going to get that animated. That costs a lot of money, so we need funding for that. But yeah, to get it animated, because they're all on TikTok and the social media side, and hopefully that will get where it needs to be and get out there in the world and make a difference.
You talk about working with people, and I know you mentioned the podcast, but creating music that's sort of in sync with somebody's vibration.
If somebody wants some background music for their videos, or a little musical ident to go with an animated logo, for example, in the start of your video, or anything like that, or for your podcast theme music, I create music according to how they want their audience to feel. So if you want your audience to feel, for example, I did some music for a holiday company. They need their audience to feel sunny and light and relaxed, but also really safe in the current climate, safe to go on holiday. So I tied in all those frequencies and the chakras, the tonalities that I use, tied it all in with that. And with the tempo and all sorts of subliminal stuff that you would never pick up on, all went into making that music. And that law of attraction kicks in there as well and attracts the right audience, as well as making their audience feel a certain way.
I think that's just magical, because when I was putting together the music with Pete, the wonderful podcast producer, who'll be listening, we went down a real rabbit hole of all the sort of pre-produced music that you have to try and find. And it was really difficult to find the right music for my Harnessing Happiness podcast, because there's so much stock stuff out there, but it's how it's been sort of logged and put out there. And I didn't want something that sounded like a burst of sort of TV news theme, or I didn't want something that was so crazy that was manic, but I wanted something that was upbeat, that was happy, that for that sort of the opening music to the podcast. And it's just getting it right. So actually have something created would have been wonderful. But I have that noted in my notebook of my head now. Here's to the next one. Oh, Catherine, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. How do people get hold of you if they would like some branding, some music to send their children to sleep, or they just want to know more about you for hiring you for weddings, or just to make them feel generally happy? Because obviously music, as we've said, does make you really happy. It lifts you up, and if you've got something you've got anchored in you is a go-to track, you can just go to it, and then you can tune into Catherine's idea of feeling light before what you eat and go, that's a good one. I love that. I'm keeping that.
Yeah, well, so for the live music stuff, that's just my name, Catherine with a C, Rannus, R-A-N-N for Norman US. And then for the healing side of the music and the audio branding, that's all under Belightful Music. That's B for Bertie, Belightful Music.
If you're listening and you've got to this part, do tune into Catherine's website and go and treat yourself to some music, because she's got lots of stuff on YouTube as well. And I shall be getting the Chakra album. I want to get that downloaded, so I shall better get onto your website and treat myself. Thank you again so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Catherine. And thank you for listening to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please do rate, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is you do. And yeah, it would be great if you could leave a review as well. So thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit sarahjnaylor.com. That's sarahjnaylor.com.